What's up, guys? Kool-Aid here, and today we're going to continue on with part 2 of our Vanguard certification and weapons guide. Now, a lot of this will carry over to other main battle tanks as well. Other main battle tanks being the Prowler and the Mag Rider, of course. But I just want to put that disclaimer out there that some of the stuff is going to be focused more on the Vanguard. The majority of the secondary weapons will carry over between the factions. However, there are two unique and specific to each faction. I'm not going to talk about the TR or the VS versions of these. And as far as the primaries goes, I'm only going to use Vanguard stats and Vanguard footage. So let's talk about them now. So the first one, which you start with, is the Titan Heat. And this is going to do 1750 direct damage, 1000 indirect damage. It's got a projectile velocity of 200, and it's got a blast radius of 6. I don't know exactly what that 6 means. All it really matters is what it is relative to the other primary weapons. So the Titan Heat is kind of your in-between, all-around gun. Personally, this is my favorite. It does well enough to win 1v1 tank battles, but it does have that blast radius and indirect damage to take out infantry with ease. Next we have the Titan AP, and this is going to be your anti-vehicle weapon. It's going to do 2000 direct damage and have a projectile speed at 225. So both a little bit better than the Heat, both geared towards taking out vehicles more than anything. Now the stats say this has indirect damage at 500 and a blast radius at 4. Now I believe these stats for the most part to be true. I will leave them in the link. Supposedly they are pulled from the game files. From all I've used of this weapon and from everything I've read, this weapon has 0 blast radius whatsoever. I have not got a hit marker on anything that I have not hit with a direct shot, and in that case it will kill them. So basically this weapon right now at least has 0 blast radius whatsoever. This is only going to be good for direct hitting stuff, basically for anti-vehicle. One other thing to note about this weapon is that it will one-shot ESFs, where some of the other weapons will not one-shot them. Can be quite annoying if you land a really nice shot on an ESF and do not bring it down. So lastly, for the primaries, we have the Titan High Explosive, or HE. This is going to do 1300 direct damage, 1000 indirect damage, so the same as the Heat as far as indirect damage goes, although it's going to have a bigger blast radius rated at 8. This does have a slower projectile velocity at 175, so the slowest of the three, but it does have that bigger blast radius. This is basically your anti-infantry weapon. If you want to go all-out anti-infantry, this is what you use, and it is pretty good. It's not bad. You just don't want to try to take on other tanks, or at least not from the front. If you can sneak up behind them, get the first shot in the rear, it ain't too bad. Personally, I've tested all of them. I got video of all of them. Out of the three, I definitely prefer the Heat, the starting one that you get for free, don't have to spend any money on. The reason being, if you go to the armor or the AP, you gain that extra vehicle, but it ain't that much, and you lose the complete ability to kill infantry almost. And if you go down to the Heat, you gain that little bit of extra infantry killing ability, but you lose so much vehicle killing ability. So that Heat is just a really good combination. There are different circumstances where one might be better than the other, depending on if you have a gunner, what kind of gunner you have, and I'll talk about that more after I talk about the secondary weapons. But I would recommend the Heat, and if you don't want to spend a lot of money in this game, there's absolutely nothing wrong with not purchasing the AP or the high explosive rounds. Alright, so moving on to the secondary weapons, if you click the link that I'll leave in the description, you'll see there's not many stats out on these. As far as I know, these are the only stats, and there's really nothing to go on here. I do have all these unlocked. I'm going to try and show you the majority of them, and I have used them enough where I think I can give you guys a solid opinion on what you should buy and what you should avoid. So first off, you do start off with the Basilisk. This weapon is capable of killing everything, yet it's not very good at killing anything. What I mean by that is you can totally kill infantry, vehicles, ESFs with this thing, but there are weapons that are going to do all of that stuff better. Now, if you really want something that is in the medium range, maybe you want to stick with this, especially if you're low on station cash or low on certs. Don't want to dump anything into this. It's not the worst weapon in the world. However, if you are serious about driving Vanguards and using them often, you are going to want to replace this at some point. And where you go from there depends on what you want to do. You have to go either anti-infantry, anti-air, or anti-vehicle. Now, when it comes to anti-air in the Vanguard, personally, I would avoid this. There are better things in the game to take out air, such as bursters or sky guards or turrets, where I would leave that to them. I think Vanguards are better suited to more get up in your face, take out other armor, or take out infantry. That's just my opinion. There's nothing wrong with going it, but I would avoid the Walker, which is the only real anti-air option we have on the Vanguard. Now, from there, you're going to have to choose your anti-infantry or your anti-vehicle weapon. You are going to want one of each of these at some point down the line, depending on the situation. If I had to choose which one to buy first, I'd probably go with anti-infantry, just because I typically have more of a trouble with multiple heavies than tanks. Seems like I can escape from tanks easier. I don't know why. But this will give your gunner a better chance to take out them heavies. So, when it comes to anti-infantry weapons, we have two options. We have the Cobalt, and we have the Enforcer, which is one of our Empire-specific weapons. Now, the Cobalt is my personal favorite. It's basically a 50 cal machine gun. You get big magazines, 100 round magazine size. This thing only costs 100 certs or 250 station cash. And just from personal experience, as well as two of my friends gunning for me, they both prefer this over the Enforcer. The Enforcer is a canister shell or a shotgun, so to speak, and the problem with this is that it's like a shotgun. It has really, really short range. You're going to see in this video that this is basically where the one-hit kill potential ends, and this is me standing perfectly still and him nailing me with a direct shot. It's just too unpredictable. Outside of this range, the damage is absolutely horrible. The pellet spread gets way too much, and it's just really unreliable. In very close range, it is very, very deadly. It's kind of similar to the hacksaws for the Maxes. I mean, it does have more range than that, but again, in a tank battle, that you don't want to be that close to the stuff you're shooting. Tank battles are typically at longer ranges than that. So I would avoid the Enforcer. Not my favorite. I would definitely go with the Cobalt 50 cal as my anti-infantry weapon. So for anti-armor weapons, we have two options again. We have the Halberd, which is cross Empire, and then we have the Enforcer. And I should clarify, this is the Enforcer ML85. This is Empire specific. And then the shotgun, the canister that I was talking about, was the Enforcer C85 modified. So they have the same name, different numbers. So as far as the Halberd and the Enforcer ML85 go, these are going to do the exact same damage. They're actually going to do 1,500 direct damage. So that actually puts them higher than the Vanguard high explosive primary round, and a little bit lower than the Vanguard high explosive, or not high explosive, but the Vanguard heat round that you start off with. So these are going to be your best, by far your best anti-vehicle weapons. Now the difference between the Halberd and the Enforcer ML85, even though I said they do the same damage, is the Halberd has a really crappy reticle that I cannot stand. It's not that bad, but you guys will see. It has slower projectile velocity and more projectile drop, quite a bit. I'm going to show you guys that. Now the Enforcer, even though they do the same damage, is pretty much a straight arrow. Where you aim, it's going to hit unless you're shooting it very far away. It does have faster projectile velocity than the Halberd. The thing that you're going to gain by using the Halberd over the Enforcer ML85 is some blast radius. It's not a lot. It's not going to be a anti-infantry killing machine, but it is going to be better than the Enforcer ML85. If I had to choose one, however, it would probably be the Enforcer, just because it does shoot straighter, and I like the reticle a lot better. So now that I've told you about the weapons, you got to kind of come up with some setups. Personally, my favorite setup when I'm riding around solo, which happens a lot, people don't seem to want a gun very often. I don't know why, but I like to run the Titan Heat, which is the one that you don't have to pay for, with the Enforcer ML85 as my secondary. The reason I like to do that is because if I have a tank low and I just shot my primary weapon, I'll jump into that second seat, finish them off without having to wait for my primary to reload. Now, if I have my perfect setup going with my friends gunning for me, I have the Titan Heat with the Cobalt 50 cal machine gun. So, really, if you just want to if you want to go cheap here, the way to go, in my opinion, is to pick up the Cobalt and the ML85. This is going to cost you a total of 350 certs or 750 station cash. That's it, and I think you can have a couple of the best setups in the game. Now, as far as attachments go, pretty self-explanatory. You're going to want to pick up the first couple tiers of maximum ammo capacity. Really no reason not to. It's cheap, and it sucks ass when you run out of ammo when you're in a good spot and have to retreat to either a tower or a sunder. As far as optics go, I use zoom optics on the Titan AP and the Enforcer ML85. Everything else, I prefer infrared. Aside from the Walker anti-air, of course, for obvious reasons. But infrared is cheap. It's only 50 certs, and it's going to light up infantry, make it very easy for you to get them infantry kills. So I do prefer that on basically everything, other than the AP and the ML85. As far as reload speed, I would avoid this. It's going to give you 2% on your primary weapons per tier. And somebody did the math on this. After you spend 2,250 certs in this, you are going to gain a total of 0.36 seconds, I believe it was, on your reload speed. Not really worth it. Eventually, I will say this, if you're really into Vanguards, it's probably something you're going to want to invest in down the line. It might win you those tank versus tank battles, but it just doesn't seem like enough to justify the certification points needed to use it. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I got. If you enjoyed this, please hit like. I really do appreciate it. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you